Who was the first Jedi that Darth Maul killed? Shortly before the events of The Phantom Menace, Palpatine spoke with Maul and told him that soon they would reveal themselves to the Jedi. However, Maul was bloodthirsty for his first Jedi kill and he didn't want to wait any longer, so he decided to disobey Palpatine's orders. With the help of a few bounty hunters, Maul went on a hunt to capture a young Jedi Padawan named Eldra Cadis. Unfortunately though, the most unexpected thing happened. After Maul captured her, their ship was shot down and both Maul and Eldra were then forced to team up together to fight off other assassins that were also after her. The two of them ended up killing everybody in sight, but then all of a sudden, Maul quickly turned around and attacked her. Sadly, it only took seconds before he stabbed her right in her chest, as he then earned his first Jedi kill. How did Palpatine react to Darth Maul's death? In The Phantom Menace, we all know that Maul was defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi, but have you ever wondered as to how Palpatine reacted to this? Well, as soon as Maul lost, Palpatine had felt a disturbance in the Force, and for some reason, he started to feel lonely. Although he couldn't figure out why he felt this way, he knew something wasn't right. Eventually, he was able to find details about the duel and learned that Maul had defeated Qui-Gon but lost to Obi-Wan Kenobi. This disappointed Palpatine because he spent close to 20 years training Maul and he saw future plans with him, only for him to lose to a young Padawan. However, despite his loss, it brought Palpatine joy to watch Qui-Gon's body burn to ash. What happened when Darth Maul was haunted by Grievous's ghost? Shortly after the events of the Clone Wars, Maul traveled to an ancient Sith castle where he was hoping to seek more knowledge. However, upon arriving, he was then confronted by the ghost of General Grievous. As the two spoke, Grievous taunted Maul and reminded him about how he killed his mother, Mother Talzin. Maul, who was enraged by this, leaped towards Grievous and went in to attack him, but no matter how hard he tried, Grievous kept defending his strikes. As the former general continued to taunt him, he started laughing hysterically and reminded Maul of what a failure he was. He told him that not only was he unable to save his mother, but also his own brother, Savage Opress. However, before he continued, Maul lunged towards Grievous one final time, but this time he struck his blade right through his chest. Although his ghost would then disappear, Maul felt no satisfaction from killing his former rival. What happened when Darth Maul became a Jedi? Although Maul was one of the most powerful Sith Lords, did you know he sort of became a Jedi at one point? Well, shortly before the events of The Phantom Menace, Palpatine brought Maul to an ancient Sith temple. However, while they were at the temple, Maul had a vision of him as a Jedi. In the vision, a young boy was asking him for help against a large beast, so Maul ignited his double-bladed blue lightsaber and slaughtered the beast to save him. The family of the young kid then thanked Maul for saving them, but then all of a sudden, Maul snapped out of it. He told himself that he was no Jedi, so he then slaughtered the entire family, reminding them that the Jedi were all but just a lie. As he then returned back to his normal self, Palpatine was impressed by his performance. What happened to Darth Maul's body after he died? After dying at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, have you ever wondered what happened to Maul's body afterwards? Well, this answer might surprise you a little bit. Despite all the pain that Maul inflicted on Obi-Wan throughout the years, Obi-Wan decided to do something out of an act of kindness. To honor Maul, he burned his body on a funeral pyre and gave him his own ceremony. This was extremely common in the Jedi tradition, as we've seen both Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker have one as well. Despite killing him, Obi-Wan did this as a sign of respect for his old rival. What did Darth Maul do in his free time? One question that many fans wonder is what Darth Maul did in his spare time before The Phantom Menace. Well, there were actually a few things he enjoyed doing. Unlike his master Darth Sidious, Maul had an itch to always fight someone or something. Because of this, he spent a lot of time practicing with training droids to perfect his lightsaber skills so that he would be prepared to fight the Jedi when that day eventually came. However, if he wasn't practicing his saber skills, sometimes he would travel to different planets so he could hunt down beasts. Crazy enough, when he would fight these beasts, he wouldn't use his lightsaber, and instead he'd challenge himself by only using his bare hands. Maul felt that by doing these things, he'd eventually be ready to defeat the Jedi. What happened when Qui-Gon's Force Ghost visited Darth Maul? Shortly after the events of Order 66, Maul traveled to a Sith castle where he was hoping to seek more knowledge. Upon arriving, he was faced with many trials, including being attacked by both the ghosts of Savage Opress and General Grievous. Although he'd be successful in defeating them both, little did he know to what he was about to encounter next. As he then entered the final chamber of the castle, he then all of a sudden saw the Jedi that he once killed, Qui-Gon Jinn. However, instead of attacking him like Savage and Grievous did, Qui-Gon offered Maul a choice. He offered him to leave behind his obsession for revenge, and instead to take a new step towards a different destiny. Maul, who refused, ignited his lightsaber, and when he tried to strike down Qui-Gon with the saber, Qui-Gon then all of a sudden disappeared. As this happened, the dark power that originally brought Maul to this castle quickly faded away. This would then lead him to never knowing what that new path could have been like for him. What were Darth Maul's thoughts after he was cut in half? Although we all know that Maul was sliced up by Obi-Wan Kenobi, did you know his thoughts in this scene were way darker than what we only saw in the film? Well, as you watched Obi-Wan jump over him, he tried to stop him, but unfortunately it was too late. Maul then felt himself falling backwards, so he started to scream the word no in his head, since he believed that this couldn't be the end of his story. In his eyes, he spent so many years training, and had so much left to accomplish, so to die here wouldn't make any sense. Maul then used all of his hatred to keep his eyes open, so that one day, he could eventually get his revenge on Obi-Wan. What was the craziest Darth Maul fact? Although Maul was a terrifying Sith Lord, there's one fact about him that might actually surprise you. Maul, who is a part of the Zabrak species, had some unique features such as the horns on his head, but there was one more thing. Like the rest of his species, he actually had 2 hearts instead of 1. That means if one of his hearts stopped working, then the other one could keep pumping blood so he could stay alive. This basically gave him second chances in fights, and would allow him to survive if he ever got in trouble. You could even say that technically, Maul had more heart than Obi-Wan Kenobi. What was a special gift that Palpatine gave Darth Maul? Shortly before the events of the Phantom Menace, Palpatine wanted to prepare Maul for when they'd eventually reveal themselves to the Jedi. To do so, he decided to give Maul a special gift. This gift was his very own ship that was called a Sith Infiltrator, but let's just say this wasn't just any ordinary ship. The Infiltrator actually had a cloaking device that allowed the entire ship to be invisible if Maul ever wanted, and it also came with 6 different laser cannons. Not only this, but Palpatine also gave him his very own speeder bike so that he could hunt Jedi a lot easier. Why didn't Palpatine sense that Darth Maul survived? In the Phantom Menace, we all know that Maul was defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi, but have you ever wondered why Palpatine never sensed that he survived this fight? Well, crazy enough, there's actually a reason for this. After Palpatine found out that Maul lost, he started to feel sad at first, but after a while, he then decided to just forget about it. In his eyes, Maul was just a tool, and the real prize was Anakin, who he began to devote all of his focus towards. Because of this, he didn't care about Maul anymore, and his thoughts were way too clouded on bigger and better things now. He ultimately believed that by focusing on the future, he'd eventually rule the galaxy. Why did Qui-Gon know that he would lose to Darth Maul? Although we all know that Maul killed Qui-Gon Jinn, did you know that Qui-Gon knew he would lose to him before it even happened? Well, as they were dueling, Qui-Gon was shocked at how confident and how skilled Maul was. In his eyes, he knew that Maul had every advantage possible because not only was he stronger, but he was also younger. At this point of the duel, Qui-Gon was 60 years old, while Maul on the other hand was only 22. He then told himself that the only edge he did have on Maul was his experience, but he knew that wouldn't be enough. As Qui-Gon became more and more fatigued, he realized that he stood no chance against the Sith Lord. How did Darth Vader almost kill Darth Maul? Although both Maul and Vader were each trained by Darth Sidious, did you know that Vader was actually supposed to kill Maul at one point? Well, in a deleted script from Star Wars Rebels, the two were supposed to fight minutes before Vader fought up against Ahsoka. In this scene, they both would have dueled at the Sith Temple, and by the end of it, Vader was supposed to strike Maul down and kill him. However, they eventually scrapped this idea, and instead, Maul died later on to Obi-Wan Kenobi. They ultimately cut this so they could focus more on the emotional drama between both Vader and Ahsoka. If you enjoyed this lore compilation about Maul and you want to learn more about Obi-Wan's best stories, then make sure to click the video in the middle of the screen right here.